Creating your own reality. Is it possible for me? I am Jennifer K. Hill, the Consciousness Architect, and I am here to tell you that it's not only possible, it's closer than you might think. Welcome to the show. Hello, friends, and welcome back for another episode of Regarding Consciousness. I am your host, Jennifer K. Hill, and CEO of OptiMatch.app. I'm so grateful to get to comb the world to find you some of the best, the brightest, and most innovative minds of our time regarding all things consciousness. Today, we have a very special guest with a special story to share, as well as some incredible techniques that can help us all to expand our consciousness. Jamie Lee Silver is the creator of the Silver Lining System, where she offers clinical EFT tapping and matrix energetic sessions to people suffering from all kinds of loss. She discovered EFT shortly before her son tragically took his life at the age of 22. To Jamie, grieving her son felt like standing at the top of a vortex that she could easily fall down and never emerge from. Tapping saved her life, and she is now committed to helping as many grievers out of the vortex as possible so that they can move from pain to purpose. Thank you for being here with us today, Jamie.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah. Let's talk about this. Grief. It's a tough topic. I can't imagine. Words are not sufficient to describe how it must feel. I'm so sorry for the loss of your son, and so grateful though that this has been a catalyst that you've been able to help so many people to move through this. I have a dear friend actually in Florida that's coming to mind right now to connect you with, who I remember she sent me a picture of a little girl about a year and a half ago, and she said, please pray for this little girl who was about 2, and she wound up dying the next day, and it was her granddaughter. And we go through losses. My dad just died very unexpectedly about 2 or 3 months ago, and we go through loss, whether it's an expected loss like a parent or an unexpected loss like a child. Tell us, how did you move? What are the secrets to unlocking grief and to moving out of the vortex and into the other levels of consciousness that lay beyond the grief?
Oh, it's such a great question, Jennifer. I am fortunate in that I have been a seeker in the consciousness realm my entire life and a practicing Buddhist since 1985, and of the deep conviction that consciousness flows in and through me, and everything that I can do to overcome and to heal my own body, mind, and soul raises the vibration of the entire planet, the entire universe. I have always had that as a focus. And partly because of that, I really believed that nothing bad was ever going to happen to me. And my son, Ben, here he is right there. He was a star runner, short little guy, 5'3". He brought his team in high school to the state championship over and over and over. He pushed himself so hard that when he finally made it to college with a full running scholarship at an A1 division team, he had run his body out. That was it. His body was like, I'm not having this anymore. And he could never run. So he was a singer, songwriter, and poet, and like all this richness inside, but without his main thing, he started to lose himself. And then onset of late onset schizophrenia, and then 2.5 years of really wanting his life to end. And there was a part of me when he was able to free himself in July of 2015 that, of course, as a mother, began this scream inside my head. But then, as a conscious soul, I could feel his release.
Mm. Oh, I can't imagine the courage for you to be able to accept his transition with such grace and the ease that it sounds like has come over time. And it's heartbreaking because we see so many people who lose loved ones of all sorts, all types. And as somebody who tried to take my own life 3 times between 18 and 21, I can't imagine the grief that would have caused my family had I been successful. And that's why I don't take breaths for granted. Every breath I have, every moment I have, that's why I do this show and do so many things that I do is so many people didn't make it. And anything I can do, if it inspires one other person to live another day, then that's what we're here for. Those of us who are still here and our loved ones are still with us. And no matter what we believe, in some way, shape, or form, energetically, they're still connected to us. And I think it's important that we don't lose sight of that, that their form might have changed, but in some way we still have the capacity to connect to them. And that's been my solace with my dad dying. And I've taught other people how to connect with their loved ones who are on the other side, is that we still are connected. Just like a telephone connects us, we can still connect with them.
Then you and I are part of the, I'm not sure I like this name of it, but this new awakening that there is no death, there is no deceased. Maybe the body's not here, but this book, Our Forever Ben, I started with Ben 2 weeks after he became non-physical.
Mm.
And I was sitting by the side of the pool and I could feel him in every bird. I could feel his relief and his connectedness. And I wrote to him and I said, maybe you're sitting next to me by the pool right now. What do you have to say? And it's quite beautiful. And he was a poet. So he wrote to me in poetry. I wrote to him in poetry. And he tells me he can be in every bird and that he didn't have a dog in life, but now he can be with any dog he wants to, and he can be any age he wants to. And that he truly is the magnificence that is all of us, is your dad, is you, is all of us.
Mm, I love that. And it's so true. My dear friend, Dr. Mark Golston, who passed on earlier this year on December 31st of 2023, was one of the most prolific authors, speakers, influencers in the world. And he was my mentor, and he would always share with me about his dead mentors. Larry King was one of his best friends. And so he'd have this convening of his dead mentors society, as he called it. We've had Mark on the show before, and I think he spoke about it. And he would talk about how he would gather his mentors and ask for feedback and wisdom. So when Mark passed, we were very deeply connected. Of course, it's like a gut punch when you find out somebody you love has passed. And then
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wait, we're still connected. And Mark is just so adorable. So I phoned him up, for lack of a better word. We connected the heart level often. And he giddy as a kid in a candy store.
Yes.
I'm like, Mark, how you doing, buddy? And he's, Jennifer, you have no idea, my friend. I could only mentor so many people in physical form. I can mentor everyone now. And he is just happy as can be. And I'm just like, it makes my soul so happy whenever I connect with him.
I get it. It's so wonderful.
And
It is.
I want to be respectful, Jamie, that a lot of people might be listening, and I don't want them
Yes.
to think we're being cavalier about this.
No.
Let's talk a little bit about what
I,
are some tools for people who are grieving and really in the middle of this vortex. You teach emotional freedom technique, or what's called EFT tapping. For anybody, I don't think we've ever done a show on this topic before. Talk to us a little bit about how you discovered EFT and how it's helping you to heal, as perhaps maybe well as showing us how to do it for those who aren't familiar with it.
thank you. Thank you bringing us to this moment. I like to return to that moment after where every morning I would open my eyes into this deafening scream of no, this isn't possible, that I can't hold him in my arms, that we can't share a joke, that he's not here physically. And that, honestly, I saw a vortex or felt a vortex or imagined one right in front of me. And I know there are people who are going down that hole because they don't know what else to do. And the sadness about that, of course, is that your loved ones go down that hole with you. My other son, he needed me, right? And he's an amazing human. And my friends needed me. And I had just discovered EFT before Ben got sick. And I remember the very first time I was chanting, and the phrase that starts it all in did I say chanting? Because I was chanting too, but when I was tapping, the phrase that starts it all is, even though I feel, let's say, this despair, and I feel it in my heart, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And in those moments, Jennifer, I could feel these tears coming down my face, thinking, wow, could this be the tool that actually actualizes love for myself? Takes it from oh, I wish I could love myself, to an actual experience of that. And that's what got me started. And then as Ben got more and more sick, what I love about tapping is that it is the biggest form of self-compassion. Because when we can take the intensity of the emotions that we feel, and instead of encasing them in a balloon and putting them underwater so that, let's not feel this today. Let's not even know it's there. Let's just keep it down there. And instead of that, in someone who is a loving guide, as I am to my clients, I think it's very important to do tapping with a human whose energetic interaction brings you into the state that you want to be in, helps you be able to have the safety to accept the emotions that you have. So where we start is, even though I have this emotion, I accept it. It's okay to feel it. We live in an emotion phobic society. We don't really want to be here, but we don't know any different, many of us. And the ability to say, okay, I feel you, and I feel you, and identify where in the body and what moment or what memory is specific to that feeling. That's where the freedom from tapping does, because when we tap on that moment, allow that feeling, it just moves right through us. And then it can allow for clearer thinking and clear acceptance and true happiness that really is underneath our pushing away of those emotions. And it takes time. It takes time. The shock of losing someone that you love dearly, it is a type of trauma. And so EFT is the processing of that.
Mm. So you were saying, even though I have this emotion, whatever it is, I love and accept. What was the second part of it?
Even though everyone who sends me an email, I'll send you this script so that you've got it at tapforhappiness@gmail.com. Anyway, I'm sure that'll be in the liner notes, so you don't have to write that out. So even though I feel, and you identify the emotion and where you might feel it in your body, like this. Even though I feel this sadness and tightness in my throat, it's okay to feel it. It's okay to feel what I feel. And I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And there are some people who can't say that phrase. I deeply love and accept myself, and that's okay. You can say, I comfort and soothe myself. And it's still an acceptance of what that emotion is to allow it to move through rather than to be stuck.
Beautiful. Yeah, I remember when I was taught this by my business coach probably about a decade ago. It is such a powerful way to release. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jamie. For those of you who are listening to this on iTunes or Spotify or whatever your favorite station is, do know that you can catch the video portion of this on YouTube /youtube.com/ at Jennifer K. Hill. And you'll be able to find the videos there. And if I'm not mistaken, Jamie, there are different parts of the body that you tap on that are acupuncture meridians, if I remember it correctly, like the top of the eyebrows, the
I can lead you through.
Cs. We would love
Yeah.
that.
It starts on the side of the hand,
Okay.
just like this, with your fingertips, side of the hand. And that's where 3 times you do your reverse statement, which is even though I feel this way. And if you can identify it in your body, great. If you can't, that's okay too. But even though I feel immense sadness right now, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And you say that 3 times.
Okay.
And then top of the head, you say, this immense sadness I feel. And you give it a number, like maybe it's an 8, maybe it's a 10, 0 to 10. And you do what's called a round of tapping, which is what we're doing now. Then right here and inside of the eyebrows. And then right here on the side of the eyes. And you keep repeating your phrase of what the emotion is. And you name it so you can release it. And then under your eyes, way up here, under your eyeballs. And then right here, this naming this emotion.
And we're tapping, by the way, just to give people context for listening and not watching. You
Well,
started by tapping the top of the head, first the side of the hand, top of the head, in between the eyebrows, the temples, right above the lips, and right above under the eyes. Yes, under the eyes, above the lip, and then on the chin. And then do we go to the clavicle next?
yes. Yeah. And then I use inside of the wrist. Some people do under the arm, but most of my clients feel more comfortable with under wrist. And then I have everyone give a nice, loving stretch and a sip of water.
And how often do we do this? So let's say somebody, for example, is really struggling with grief right now, and you say the same phrase 3 times for every point.
You say this at the top of once you finish the 3 times on the side of the hand, you tap on the top of the head and say the name of the emotion that you're feeling.
I feel sad, or do you say sadness, or I feel sad?
Whichever.
Okay, so you would say I feel sad while tapping the top of the head.
Yeah. Or the sadness. And you just keep going. Now, we're making it technical. I'm teaching you the clinical version of EFT that I feel is very important. I learned it at the EFT Tapping Training Institute with Alina Frank and Craig Weiner. And there are different practitioners who do it a different way. And sometimes if you want to do it, just don't even worry about the words. you can even just tap.
Yeah, it's very calming for anybody who hasn't tried this before. If you're feeling anxious or stressed, obviously be careful if you're driving, pull over to do this if you're listening to the show. But do, if you can, watch the video so you can see what Jamie is showing us how to do. And talk to us a little bit about, Jamie, about how this was, number one, identified, and two, I think this has been scientifically studied as well,
Oh,
right?
it has been tremendously scientifically studied. Although at this point, I do say, and do say, we don't offer guarantees. Everybody relates to it differently. And I'm not a therapist, but I am an EFT practitioner. So it was originally discovered by Dr. Callahan. And what happened was, this is the origin story of EFT. He was working with a woman who was afraid of water. And she was explaining to him that she'd been afraid of water her whole life. And he was learning about the energy meridian points, which are also places where nerve endings are closest to the skin. So you can look at it from like the body scientific, you can look at it from the Eastern side, you can look at it from both sides. And he said to her, "Do you mind if I tap on your face right now? I have an idea." And she said, "Yes, go ahead." And this is known as the fear meridian.
Oh,
So she tapped on it as she talked about her fear of water. So what you're effectively doing is sending calming signals to your body while speaking what the fear is. And in that way, the body just starts to release that fear. And she said, "Wait a minute." She said, "I don't think I'm afraid of water anymore." And she went and jumped in the pool in the backyard, and EFT tapping was born.
oh, that is so remarkable. Another guest we've had on the show recently, Shamini Jan had joined us, and she did something. It's an event I co-produce the third Saturday of every month called the Global Coherence Pulse. And on the June pulse that she did of 2024, she took us through an exercise where she had us using chants and just moving energy in the body. And I think what really this gets down to is oftentimes emotions get stuck in our body. Emotions like fear or anger or resentment or whatever it might be. And by either doing what Shamini showed us, the Global Coherence Pulse, a couple of months back, or by doing what you're sharing with us with EFT, I think the key is to move the body energetically, allow the body to move, and it doesn't hurt to identify the emotions. I've talked a lot about this on the show. I'm a huge fan of inner child work. Sometimes, if you're struggling with knowing what is your emotion, you can work with, of course, a practitioner like Jamie or a wonderful therapist or whomever you feel in a psychologically safe relationship with. And you can also do it for yourself. I like to put my hand on my heart or on my abdomen and just ask a younger version of myself, either looking at a picture or envisioning yourself, how are you feeling today? What do you need? And I cannot tell you how many times, Jamie, I am shocked that 43-year-old Jennifer feels one way. And 5-year-old me is, I'm really sad right now, or I'm really afraid. And I'm like, really? What are we afraid about? Because we're so busy adulting, right? We're all going through our lives, just adulting here and adulting there and making money and
Yes.
kids. And you're like, we're sad right now? What are we sad about?
I thought we were fine, but wait.
And this is where it comes out. This is where we verbally vomit all over our loved ones and friends and enemies and everybody.
All right.
We're completely unconscious about the fact that we're sad, angry, happy, mad, whatever, everything in between. So I think step one is it doesn't hurt to have a confidant, a person who can help you to see it or to do it for yourself. And step two then is to use techniques like EFT to allow yourself to help process it, to release the fears, release the grief. If you were doing it for grief, because I know we started the conversation today with grief, would you just say, even though I'm feeling, well, I guess we'd start with the hands, even though I'm feeling grief right now, I love and accept myself fully, is how you would do it for grief?
What I do is identify something in that, say you're my client and we're meeting and you're like, you say, oh, Jamie, so and so said this to me this week, and it just put me in this frame of mind. What we would do is focus on that specific moment and the words that they said to you, and how you feel in your body right now, just thinking about it. This is that clinical EFT piece of focusing on the specific moment right now, this week. It's how your grief is showing up for you right this moment.
Oh.
So we take that, tap on that, and then it starts the unraveling process and the reconstituting process of building your new self. Because we'd say, even though so and so said whatever it is that made you think the saddest thought and you feel sad about it right now, I deeply and completely accept that it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to feel the way I feel. And by a couple of rounds of tapping, suddenly you have an insight. And it's way, way down. And you feel every session, you feel so energetically better because you've allowed that emotion to release from your body.
Thank you for the work you're doing, Jamie. It's such important work, and the courage that you have to do it in spite of the face of everything with the loss of Ben. And I can't even imagine what it took for you to be able to do that. And yet sometimes I feel like we do go through these deep, meaningful losses in our lives to catalyze ourselves. One of my favorite books of all time, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the show before, is Dr. Brian Weiss, Many Lives, Many Masters.
Oh, yes.
That book blew my mind. It
Mind blowing.
completely shifted my life. And in it, he talks about how his son died of a backwards heart. So Brian Weiss's son died at 30 days old. And when he's doing work with a patient, much like you're speaking about, she's afraid of water, she's afraid of swallowing pills, and he's doing the work, and all of a sudden this voice comes in. It's not the woman's voice, and it's a voice of a boy, and it's his son's voice coming through saying, Dad, it's me. This is your son who died of a backwards heart, and there's no way this woman could have possibly known this. It was very private to the family. And he said, I want you to know I chose to die of a backwards heart so you would give up on traditional medicine and go into psychiatry because this is your purpose and you had to follow this path. And it's oof, just like you. I feel like it's in some ways your son might have done this and given up his life so that way you could fulfill your purpose of helping others. And yet, when we understand the beautiful, huge tapestry of energy and how we're all weaving this together for the greater good, not just of one another, but of all of humanity, then it begins to give us deeper compassion for ourselves and others.
So true. It's so true. And my ability, I remember being the reason I wrote the book with Ben, and we're working on our second one and looking for a publisher for it. And the second one is actually going to teach people how to do this. Some people like you, Jennifer, are able to really easily connect. Other people just aren't and need a little additional support into how to do it if they desire it. And I went to a support group meeting after this happened with Ben, and all the other parents were like lamenting about how they hadn't gotten their suicide note. And they had all these questions, and it was torturing them. And I get my note of whatever kind I want whenever I write to Ben. All I have to do is sit down and write. And he's my biggest cheerleader and biggest support. And I want for people who want that to be able to have that, which is a big part of what my work is now, along with helping people in their day to day just get their joy back.
What a beautiful gift. if we could all just recapture that joy that's in all of us, that it does. Unfortunately, light goes out in so many of us. And if we could only recapture that joy, that light. Beautiful work, Jamie. Where can people connect with you if they want to learn more, if they want to find the book that you wrote with Ben, if they want to learn more about how to book a tapping session with you? I know you gave the email and tapforhappiness@gmail.com, which we'll also
Sure.
put in the notes as well. Where else can people connect with you?
My website is tapforhappiness.com. And if there's something that calls out to your heart and you just want to talk to me, you can call me on the good old fashioned telephone at 630 926 3001. I'm on the western coast of Florida, on the Gulf of Mexico. And I invite all inquiries or collaborations and would love, my greatest joy, of course, is helping people.
Thank you so much. We've had Jamie Lee Silver here with us today on Regarding Consciousness, sharing tools for tapping, emotional freedom technique, and how we too can move out of the grief vortex that we find ourselves in and back to joy. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Jennifer.